Joining us now with more, political analyst Lori Turnbull. Lori, the question on my mind is, Matt Jeneroux posted a statement on X back in November when he said he was resigning, saying he didn't cross the floor because there was no coercion. Looking at the chain of events now, do you buy that?
Well, I mean, there's so many rumors going on in terms of what happened at that time. It was a very dramatic time when Chris D'Entremont indicated he was going to cross the floor, like literally around the budget time. And then these rumors about Matt Jeneroux possibly doing the same thing. And then all kinds of stories about what really happened in those conversations. What did the people in the Conservative caucus say to Matt Jeneroux? There was just really ugly stories, frankly, about what might have been said, what might have been threatened. And so I think at the time it just looked like, and he made a strange statement about, like, when he put the public statement out and said basically, like, please don't contact my family. I mean, you don't typically hear that from someone who's saying, I just want to step away from politics. And so the whole thing was weird. And he said he was going to resign, but then he didn't. And then there was these messages from Polyev where it looked like he was trying to sort of patch this over and say he'll resign maybe in the spring. It was all weird. And so to me, either, Jeneroux was going to walk or not. And there was long rumors about him being in talks with the Liberals about crossing the floor. And so here we are. Today is the day.
And now he's saying, and this morning when he met with Carney, that it was the speech in Davos that really was what swayed him. More conversations with his family who he cited as the original reason why he was going to leave politics. But now he was so moved by Carney's speech in Davos, his ambitious agenda, and this move for national unity that he's decided to stay. Is that convenient reasoning? Do you buy that?
Not totally, but I can understand why it could be used in a really smart way to say, look, this was a moment where the country showed up differently globally because the Prime Minister gave this speech in Davos that said, look, we have to reconsider how we are doing our global relationships. We are a middle power. We're striving to be a middle power. We have to do things differently. Who's with me, kind of thing. It was a galvanizing speech. People across the world were talking about it. And so if you wanted to point to a moment where you might have changed your mind and said, no, I don't want to leave politics, I want to go sit with that guy, it's plausible enough. But the Jeneroux story obviously has much deeper roots than that, and there's all kinds of reasons to think that the decision was influenced by things that weren't just the Prime Minister's speech in Davos, because presumably, if that was really the causal variable, we would have heard about this weeks ago.
As somebody who spent many years living in Edmonton, I'm wondering what the people of Edmonton Riverbend are feeling today. That's his riding, of course. This is a riding that has been purely conservative since it was created. Jeneroux, was 4 times elected in that post, and it's been strongly conservative. Now, if any part of Alberta is going to swing Liberal, it is Edmonton. That's the one little pocket, say for this last election where we saw one Calgary riding go Liberal as well. But I'm wondering if they're going to hold on to this, if there were to be an election in the next several months to come. What do you make of the forecast for this riding?
So, yeah, really, really interesting question. And I think totally fair point around, this is typically a very conservative riding, maybe a bit more liberal leaning than many of the other ridings. But at the end of the day, does that even matter? Because this is a conservative riding. I think that perhaps Matt Jeneroux is going to have a harder time convincing his constituents that this was the right thing to do compared to someone like Chris D'Entremont, who almost lost his riding in the 2025 election, which might have contributed to his reasons for wanting to cross the floor. There's certainly a sense of a division in that riding. It could have gone Liberal if things had been, a little bit different. Michael Moss, same situation. But Jeneroux is in a conservative riding, and perhaps there's a sense that he's taking a conservative seat and giving it to the Liberals. And so will he run in the next election as a Liberal? Who knows? I don't know whether he plans to run again at all. I mean, I think we have to look back at the last several months of the statements that he's given and wonder, where is his head really? Does he ultimately want to spend more time with his family, and he's going to hold on for the next while because he believes in Mark Carney's project? Who knows? I think that ultimately Mr. Jeneroux's decision does make the likelihood of a 2026 election much lower, because I think now they're one more seat. There's a couple of by-elections on the go. They'll win Rosedale. They're likely to win Scarborough. Terrebonne is going to be an absolute fight between Carney and Yves Blanchette, and that one's the one to watch. But if they get to that 172, I have to think that the Prime Minister won't borrow trouble by going to an early election.
Let me just frame what you're saying here for a second for non-political viewers right now, Lori. There are 3 vacancies in the House of Commons, the one vacated by Chrystia Freeland, Bill Blair, and then the Terrebonne riding in Quebec that you made mention of. The Liberals hold 169 seats right now. The secret number to a majority not-so-secret number is 172. They could get to 171, though, right? And the Speaker would usually vote with government. Is that not how the math usually shakes down?
Yes, typically the Speaker would absolutely vote to break a tie, and would break and tie in the favor of the status quo, which is ultimately the continuation of the government. But reading what I can into the mentality of Mark Carney, I think he wants that 172. He wants to be over that hurdle. I also think that if he gets there, there's a scenario where more people cross the floor. I mean, no matter what Davos, whether the speech had anything to do with it or what, the fact is there are people sitting in the Conservative benches who look across the street, across the street at Mark Carney and say, I could sit with him. Right? Like, here's a guy who's focused on the economy. He wants to get things done. He wants to build projects. He's pro-pipeline. I can see that working out. And if there are people sitting on the Conservative benches who think, I don't see a straight shot for Pierre Poilievre to the Prime Minister's office, maybe they switch. I think that this is potentially an opening, of a floor crossing moment, not necessarily the last one.
You think that's happening, or you're hearing that's happening?
I wouldn't. Well, a little bit of both, to be honest with you. I've heard it, and I've also I can look at this and think, really, if there's people who are able to identify with Mark Carney's value system, maybe they will.
Well, that would really shake up the dynamic in the House if they do secure that 172 and get that majority. So we'll be watching to see what happens in the months ahead. Lori Turnbull, appreciate your time and your insights as always. Thank you.
Thank you, too. Take care.
Our political analyst, Lori Turnbull.